This is the day we have been given, so let us rejoice in it and be glad. Good morning. Welcome to Cedar Lane Unitarian Universalist Church. I am Abhi Janamanchi, one of the ministers who serves this amazing religious community, and I welcome you to worship this morning. Our vision and mission states that we are a community where... All right, people, good job. And our mission is to explore... All right, 2 down, 1 more to go, and together we dare to embody... Let's say that a little bit more spirit. Together we dare to embody... Amen. Thank you. It is wonderful to see you all here this morning, and especially I would like to extend a warm welcome to our guests this morning, and if you feel comfortable doing so, would you please raise your hand or stand so we may see, recognize, and welcome you. Welcome. Welcome. It is wonderful to have you with us at worship this morning, and if you just please keep your hand raised for just a moment. We have a small gift for you as a token of our appreciation and gratitude. It's great to have you with us. Please know that whoever you are, wherever you are from, whomever you love, and whatever your gender identity, beliefs, or immigration status, you are welcome here. And I wish to extend a special welcome to all of our folks who are joining us online. And that's where I look when I say, so why don't we turn towards that camera and say hello? Whether they're joining us in the moment or later, we welcome you to worship this morning. At this time, I'd like to draw your attention to the insert that's included in your order of celebration. As you will see, this is a vital and engaged community that is actively involved in so many things, both here and in the larger community. I invite you to review the many events that are happening this week and in upcoming weeks, and consider being a part of some or all of them. And all are invited to stay after service for coffee and some conversation, and an opportunity for us to get to know our guests. So, guests, if you do pick up a yellow mug, some of our members will make sure to come and greet you and welcome you to Cedar Lane, because here at Cedar Lane, yellow means hello. It sure is. Our lay pastoral visitors work closely with the ministers to support the pastoral ministry of our congregation. If you have a pastoral need or concern, our pastoral visitor, Helen Pekacek, will be available after the service by the Joys and Candles table, Sorrows Candles table. And I wish to make a special note about the Poor People's Campaign, which continues to build momentum with thousands in the streets and state capitals and the national capital here in D.C. Over 2,000 people have courted arrest in the past few weeks throughout the country. And Unitarian Universalists have played a significant role in the Poor People's Campaign, and we at Cedar Lane have been honored not only to be a part of the Poor People's Campaign, but to host a mass meeting here last Sunday evening. How many of you were there last Sunday? All right. It was an amazing, inspiring evening. This place was packed, folks. We had over 400 people completely filling this sanctuary, the choir loft, and parts of the chapel. And it was quite an inspiration to hear the Reverend Dr. William Barber speak to us about how everybody has a right to live, which has been the focus of this past week. But as we build momentum going into the last week of this campaign, we have many actions planned, both tomorrow and during the week, all culminating on Saturday, June 23rd at 10 a.m. for a public rally. We need all of you there. And we're going to be sharing information about how and where we will be gathering for this rally. So please be on the lookout for emails, but also I think there is information in your order of celebration. So I invite you to look for that as well. And now, I would like us to turn and greet our neighbors, especially our guests. Morning, Howard.
How are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Morning, Dave. Inviting our mind, body, and spirit into this space made sacred by our presence and the presence of the holy in which we live, move, and have our being. Come, let us worship together. We are called today From the midst of pain and challenge, we are called to praise the world.
From a world that appears broken, we are called to praise life's moments of joy and grace.
From time that seems to freeze in ongoing exchanges of platitudes and blame, we are called to reach out to those around us,
to connect with those we care about, to try to make amends with those for whom we are estranged.
Let us bring our hearts together this day.
Let us praise the mutilated world in all its blessing and its pain. As Carol Elliott comes forward to kindle the chalice, symbol of our faith and our gathered community, please rise in body and or in spirit to read the words in our order of celebration.
We will light at the end.
We come today seeking blessing in our loneliness. May we find the blessing of connection in our doubt. May we feel the reassurance of the love that will not let us go. In our fear, may the blessing of courage return. May this flame we now light remind us to look up and around one more time. May it help us notice blessings that are always waiting for us when we need them most. Please remain as you are to sing hymn 128, For All That Is Our Life, in your gray hymnal. Come wanderer, come worshiper, come with your joys, your broken heart, your wholeness and your loneliness. We gather here as a single community in sacred space to meet the wonders and challenges life offers us all. Let us enter this time to gather strength and inspiration as we bear witness to the joys and sorrows in our community. When I hold up my arms, I invite you to say, "We hold you in our hearts." If you are living through the small and extraordinary milestones of life, we hold you in our hearts. If parenting is your spiritual practice,
we hold you in our hearts.
If you live with or care for someone with grief or chronic pain,
we hold you in our hearts.
If you are struggling with illness, seen and unseen, with mental illness or addictions, If you have suffered abuse or injustice,
we hold you in our hearts.
This week we hold in our hearts Dr. Henry Segrici, whose sister Patty passed away this past week. She was a caring and devoted friend to many and a talented artist whose creations graced schools, hospitals, and galleries from the eastern seaboard to the west coast. Our caring extends beyond Cedar Lane to others whose lives are lost and whose lives are impacted by violence and calamities in our world. May these friends of ours, our companions in the world, and all that lives unspoken in our hearts be held in the embrace of prayer and the peace that the stillness of silence brings.
Let us continue in the spirit of prayer, reflection, and meditation. Nameless one of many names, hear us and receive. It has come that time of year again when a day has been set aside to remember fathers, their gifts, their dreams, their presence, and their absence. O Spirit, we recognize that holidays are complicated blessings, especially the ones named after roles. And yet, here we are. Spirit of life and love. Forefathers here present and fathers to be, let us give joy and understanding, open arms, and the blessing of love given and returned. For new fathers, may today be full of wonder and hope as they get used to their new role. From us who knew and loved fathers, who battled and were held by fathers, who were taught, celebrated, and loved, we lift up hymns of grateful remembrance. From us who were frightened of our fathers, who ran away from them or would have if he knew how, listen to the anger and the hurt, and lift up the spirits of all who are in need of healing. From us who had no fathers because they died too soon, or ran away, or were not known or refused to know us, or did not know themselves we were their own. Hear our longing and frustration when we name the wounds of separation, when we chart the places and time we feel their absence. From us who wanted to be fathers and haven't been able to, or who haven't been able to be the fathers we wanted to be for our kids. Hear our yearning and our pent-up forgiveness. And from those of us who found others to father us, of a variety of genders who are father figures, grandparents, step-parents, mentors, and teachers, for all those who held us and taught us, hear us give thanks for those who fathered us. May we remember in the silence the names and lives of those people, fathers whose presence or absence touched us as we grew and learned. Silence is not enough, nor naming, but may we know that silence and naming are moments in the movement between memory and forgiveness, between love and loss, between longing and creating, out of one's own self what never was and what will be. So I invite you to center yourselves in silence, and into that receiving silence, as you feel moved, lift up the names of those who fathered us. Let us enter the silence together. Kameshwar Rao. May we be grateful for the nurturing we have received in our lives from sources both hidden and obvious. May we heal from the losses highlighted by this day. May we nurture each other and the generations to come. May the friendship and love we have in our lives today ease the pain and amplify the memories of our past. May this day be one of reconciliation and remembrance, hope and peace. May it be so. Amen. Blessed be.
Sweet as the
I wish they needed me more. My daughters are on their own, responsible adults with their own homes, their own partners, children, careers, even their own financial advisors. I see them regularly, but not as often as I would like. Claire, 38, a Unitarian Universalist minister, is the senior minister at Fallon Community Church in Lexington, Massachusetts. She is married with 2 young children. Lauren, our younger daughter, is 34. She is an event planner who is in Boston coordinating a 7,000 registrant tech conference that starts today. I love them deeply, but that doesn't mean they turn to me for advice on child raising or major life decisions for that matter. I think just about everyone and every couple with a new baby finds their way after the first few weeks of feeling totally lost and exhausted. But there was this one time. Senior ministers, if they have anyone to turn to, rarely lead services the Sunday after Thanksgiving or the Sunday after Christmas.
That's right.
That's why Claire, the intern minister at the Unitarian Church of Summit, New Jersey, in 2004, led a small service on the Sunday after Christmas. Pat, my wife, who was up in the choir loft, and I were recognized as visitors and Claire's parents. It might have been the first time I had seen her lead a service and give the sermon, and it went very well. Afterwards, while still in the sanctuary, a serious young man walked up to me. "I have a young child," he said. "How did you raise such a good daughter?" My first stumbling response was that we were lucky, which was not what he was looking for. He wanted foolproof tips. So I said we had family dinners at 6 p.m. with no interruptions allowed. I struggled for something else and came up with this. We only had one television. When anyone wanted to watch TV, they had to be in the living room. We were a reading family. We didn't watch much TV. I have no idea if my advice was followed. Understanding that our daughters were missing out on a large part of popular culture, we gave each of them a small portable TV as a high school graduation gift. During Claire's summer before college, she watched a lot in her room with the door closed. Once I was poised to knock on the door and say, "Gee, you're watching a lot of TV, you should turn it off." But I stayed my hand. I thought, she's done with high school. She's going to college in a few weeks. Leave her alone. I walked away. But if no TV in the bedroom is my best advice, it's now defunct, extinct, inoperative. Smartphones, which might be a teenager's first love, can be used everywhere, silently, with earbuds. So parents of young children, please tell me, after the service, how you are navigating your family through the world of streaming media. Pat and I fly to Boston every few months to visit Claire and family. We happily provide childcare when everyone is super busy. Lauren lives in D.C., but since she is also super busy, visits are planned in advance. Everyone will gather at Rehoboth Beach the week of the 4th of July. For the 8th year in a row, Nana and Grandpa have rented a house on the ocean block, steps from the boardwalk and Funland rides. Family and other guests contribute food, beer, and good cheer. Being a parent is an enormous responsibility. Pat and I did the hard work together. There is no easy path to good parenting, just try to do the best you can. I'm definitely glad the pressure is off. I wish my children needed me more, but isn't the goal to create independent, productive human beings? Love them, raise them, and then, if you are lucky, watch them fly away. I'm glad my daughters are contributing their gifts to the world.
Thank you, members of the choir, Henry and Jasmine, for that stirring anthem. And thank you, Michael, for that beautiful reflection about parenting. And for those really good tips. I hope I had someone give me some of those tips. So, I used to be a track and field athlete in high school and college. I know, it's hard to believe looking at me now. But take my word for it, I was. And I was quite good at it. In fact, one year I was actually the county high jump champion in high school. Yep. But I also competed in all the track events, the 100 meters, the 200 meters, and all the relay races, the 100 and 200 meter relays, and also the 110 meter hurdles. And one of the reasons I really look forward to these events was in many ways what's called the thrill of the run. I loved the thrill of running. Of course, I also loved the fact that I could use this as leverage on all the girls I had a crush on. That was definitely in the works. But there was also something else I really look forward to. between these events, there would usually be about 5 to 10 minutes, which gave me an opportunity to catch my breath before I got ready for the next event. So as much as I loved the thrill of the run, I also ran to catch my breath. Now, I share all this as a prelude to my reflections on the intersection between cultivating a spiritual life, nurturing the spirit, and serving the world, help heal the world. The relationship between beauty and justice. Because spirituality is not unlike catching one's breath. In fact, the ancient meaning in Hebrew for spirit was ruah, which means breath or wind. For much of our history, we as a faith movement have had spirited debates on questions like, is God a triune God or one God? Is Jesus divine or human? Is the Bible literally true or is it a literary document? Is there a heaven or hell? So we've struggled to distinguish between what we consider to be right and wrong beliefs. We took pride in describing ourselves as seekers after truth and our congregations as places where seekers find a home. We, in other words, have loved the thrill of the run. And contrary to what we may be witnessing to these days, a claim's truth or falsity is critical. But religion is more than just a matter of true or false beliefs, you see. It is also a matter of praise and practice, feelings and faith. It is not just about the running itself, but also about catching one's breath. But I want to acknowledge first that the notion of this thing called spirit or spirituality can be a frustrating one, especially for good, reasonable, rational Unitarian Universalists. What does it mean anyway? In my dictionary, spirituality means living the ordinary life extraordinarily well. It is about all the ways we make sense of what to do with what the poet called our one wild and precious life. It is about saying yes to life, of living each moment fully as if it were our last moment. So spirituality to me is the miracle of birth, the mystery of death, and the interval in between. It is what stirs in us when confronted with the incredible beauty, grandeur, and elegance of the world and the awful ugliness and brutality of the world. And spirituality, despite its personal dimension that invites us into that place of awe and wonder where we are grabbed by something that is much larger than us, despite its personal dimension, in other words, is something we are called to practice and perfect together. So spirituality to me is not a solo adventure, but a shared pilgrimage. And this is the point that Unitarian Universalism's third principle tries to make when it says we affirm and promote the acceptance of one another and the encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. Ernie Cortez, a community organizer and disciple of Saul Alinsky, makes a telling observation in this regard. He says, poverty of spirit occurs when people are alone, disconnected. That is, in isolation, we tend to remove ourselves from the essential core of our being, our humanity. And we are human only in and through relationship with each other, with the universe, with the world, and with ourselves. And a religious community such as this exists to provide opportunities for those kinds of ongoing connections so we can regularly work on and grow in our humanity together. Now, when I ask newcomers who come to our congregation what brought them here, often they reply, I am searching for community. That's a legitimate answer, but it does not explain anything. Why this community? You know, why not the Rotary Club? Why not a book discussion group? Why not a therapy group or the PTO? People come here, I believe, to experience a certain kind of and quality of community. The needs we bring are neither casual or just recreational. The needs we bring point to a larger need. And the point is not primarily to assuage loneliness, although that may be an outcome. The purpose is to join with other seekers who also have been struck by that loneliness or by the hollowness of a purely secular and self-absorbed life, who believe, as we do, that life can be richer, deeper, and more satisfying if we engage with the spiritual together. That's one of the essential purposes of a religious community. So we exist to nurture the spirit within and around us. Now, does this all mean that I view a preoccupation with the spirit an escape from reality? Absolutely not. As Unitarian Universalist theologian James Luther Adams wrote, we live not by spirit alone. A purely spiritual religion is a purely spurious religion. It is one that exempts its believer from surrender to the sustaining, transforming reality that demands the community of justice and love. This sham spirituality, he says, far more than materialism, is the great enemy of religion. Those are challenging words. Adams, of course, is not condemning all spirituality, but the sham spirituality of a purely spiritual religion. So it is incumbent upon each of us to understand and articulate the meaning of the Spirit, to gain a deeper understanding of leading a spiritual life, to define spirituality, and to frame our lives in such a way that we do not experience spiritual fulfillment or enlightenment, for that matter, or renewal of the Spirit, just for our own personal edification, so that we might feel good about ourselves, or at the expense of others, especially those who are less fortunate than ourselves. So our spiritual quest must be non-exploitive and selfless. It must be boundless in the sense that we surrender ourselves totally to it, and yet it must also be inclusive enough to enjoin us to give up ourselves in service of the poor, the marginalized, the forsaken, the refugee, and the asylee. I could go off on a tangent now. especially quote the Bible to you, starting with Romans 13 and working my way down to that same chapter, which if you go back and read, Romans 13:10 talks about how there is only one commandment when following the law: love thy neighbor. That is all it says. Love thy neighbor. And that love, it says, is the supreme commandment, not the commandment of following the laws of the government, a scriptural reading that was used to enforce slavery in this country, to condone genocide against Native Americans in this country, and now to forcibly remove children from their mothers and incarcerate them. We can put a gloss on all of this, saying that we are using up wonderful old Walmart stores into creating these beautiful, lovely places where these children can be safe, where they are fed, where they can learn, where they can play, all of that. The fact remains that they are being jailed. And this is a stain on our moral psyche. We must be ashamed that all this is happening in our name, because our government is doing this with such impunity. And friends, if we don't do something about it now, I don't know when we will. Okay, I'm done. Thank you. Thank you. The Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker writes, "Your gifts, whatever you discover them to be, can be used to bless or curse the world. The mind's power, the strength of the hands, the reaches of the heart, the gift of speaking, listening, imagining, seeing, waiting, any of these can draw down the prison door, hoard bread, abandon the poor, obscure what is holy, comply with injustice, or withhold love. Any of these," she continues, "can serve to feed the hungry, bind up wounds, welcome the stranger, praise what is sacred, do the work of justice, or offer love. You must answer this question," she says, "what will you do with your gifts?" And she answers, "Choose to bless the world." Because choosing to bless the world, she says, is an act of recognition, a confession of surprise, a grateful acknowledgement that in the midst of a broken world, unspeakable beauty, grace, and mystery abide. What she's saying to us is choosing to bless the world doesn't mean we give up everything and lead a monastic life. It doesn't mean getting so caught up with ourselves and our own needs all the time that we sleepwalk our way through life. It doesn't mean feeling so fatigued, experiencing compassion fatigue, or being so inured by all the injustice and oppression in the world that we feel paralyzed or don't feel like doing anything. Rather, choosing to bless the world, she says, means feeling deep gratitude for that divine dissatisfaction, as Dr. King would put it, that we feel inside, that holy disturbance, that benevolent rage, that revolutionary love. Feeling that deeply. But choosing to bless the world is not just about feeling that. It is also something we enact. The great Jewish theologian Abraham Joshua Heschel wrote, "The beginning of faith is not a feeling for the mystery of living or a sense of awe. The root of religion is the question what to do with these feelings. Religion begins with a consciousness that something is asked of us." Now, I'm preaching to the choir here because this is not a foreign idea for Unitarian Universalists. We are the ones, after all, who make our home on the limb of that religious tree most thoroughly grounded in this world, in this one life. We are the ones who proclaim quite proudly that we believe in life before death. We are the religious descendants of people who rejected the idea that God had a hell waiting for us after death. Instead, they pointed to ways we human beings create hell for each other right here on earth. Their faith asked them to do something about that very real and present hell, and our faith, the same faith, is asking us still. For us, for a religion to work, we have to work at it. For us, for a religion to work, we have to have liturgy and ritual, music and prayer, words and silence. But it cannot all be chanting and prayer or even coffee and conversation, else it risks ephemera and idolatry. We also need to have practices of integrity, a way to bring what we value, what we believe, and what we cherish closer to what we do in the world every day. For us, the basic fundamental question is not what do I want, but rather what do I want to give? Choose to bless the world. Our Unitarian Universalist way of life is not about a private feeling of happiness or well-being, of gratitude or reverence, but what we do with those feelings, how they lead us to turn our gaze toward a fractured, beautiful world and put the weight of our lives on the side of its mending. So we are spiritual because we ask ourselves what life wants from us, how we should treat each other in the world, what kind of contributions we can and must make, and what will be left when we are gone. And in that context, I see spirituality lying at the heart of everything that we do around this place. So if any of you had any doubts about whether we are spiritual or not, I hope that clears it up. Because I find our congregations to be deeply spiritual places, or at least they can be, and by calling them spiritual, I imply almost nothing about beliefs. We are spiritual because we ask ourselves what life wants from us, how we should treat each other and the world, what kind of contribution we can make, and how we will go about living lives of hope, joy, integrity, and service. So I leave you with these questions. What are you willing to risk for being a Unitarian Universalist? Is your religion working? And how can you tell? If the thought police came around to arrest you, would there be enough evidence to convict you? What are you willing to do with your blessings, your gifts? Are you choosing to bless the world? Because it's all ours, yours and mine, the strength of this community, the relevance of our faith, the crises of our time, all offer us a range of opportunities that not only boggle the mind but fire the spirit if we let them, if we focus on our truths and their consequences. So may we let the strength of our faith and our religious community and the many crises and opportunities that the world provides us fire us, boggle us, motivate us, and impel us forward. May we be the church we can and must be, choosing to bless the world. My friends, that's not a choice. It is a moral imperative. So may it be. Blessed be. So, now that we have that out of the way, I'd like to welcome our Share the Plate recipient today is Interfaith Works, an organization that we have been long-standing supporters of for many years. And today we have from Interfaith Works the chair of their board of trustees and a fellow Unitarian Universalist, Kay Newhouse.
Thank you, Abhi.
Welcome, Kay.
Thank you. And it is truly a pleasure. Can you hear me on this? Can you all hear me? Yes.
Yep.
There it goes. Okay. It is truly a pleasure to join you this morning and to hear that call to action. Thank you, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for today's Share the Plate, which will go towards Interfaith Works. Cedar Lane has been a supporter of Interfaith Works for many years, as Abhi said. Through the Share the Plate this morning, you are putting in action the pieces that Abhi is talking about. You are doing more than providing showers for someone in downtown Silver Spring who doesn't have a home right now. 800 showers a month. You are doing more than making sure that when she's ready to move inside, there's a bed waiting for her and a person who knows what she needs to feel safe and secure in that home. This is more than the mom who's waiting outside the Interfaith Works Clothing Center on Thursday with her 5-year-old twins. More than she needs, more than the clothes you're providing her and the chat with the counselor who can get her into an English language class when she needs it. It's more than help on the job strategy for the man who came here with a law degree from his home country in Africa, but who's struggling to figure out how to transition to a job in a new place in a new language. It's more than any of those people need, or the 17,000 other individual neighbors of ours who come to Interfaith Works every year for help to lift themselves and their families out of poverty. It's also what we need to see how we can put our UU principles into action and to show with actions, not just words, that we believe in the worth and dignity of each person and the interconnectedness of our communities in our search for equity of opportunity. But it's also so that we can see that we aren't, as UUs, unique in our desire to share our gifts with our neighbors, in that holy discontent that tells us there's more that we should be doing. It's also the faith communities that surround us in this work, the hundreds of other Interfaith Works congregations who volunteer together to make meals for the women's shelter, to share our resources. All of us share a commitment to the least among us. All of our religions call us, whether our politicians know it or not, to welcome the stranger, to bless the persecuted, to clothe the naked, to feed the hungry, and to love not in word or speech, but in truth and action. Thank you for sharing your gifts with Interfaith Works today. I can promise you that this moment of generosity will sustain our work, and I'll stick around for coffee and conversation. I hope you'll come shake my hand if you were part of the team that served meals at the women's shelter this year, or give me a hug if you want me to pass it on to the person who took the coat you donated at the clothing center and gave it to someone who needed it. If your family benefited from what Interfaith Works has to offer, the tools that we provide to people who need them, please come say hello. Or even if you just want to put your name on our mailing list, and so that we can tell you more directly how your money is going forth in the world to make a difference for our vulnerable neighbors. It's important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Abhi.
The offering will now be given and gratefully received.
For the gifts which we are and the gifts which we bring and share to make this beloved community, may we be truly grateful. May we be committed to using these gifts to bless the world and to keep sharing as long as we can. Amen. Please rise in body or in spirit to sing hymn number 126, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing, in your gray hymnal.
In closing, I have two short pieces. One is a counter to Attorney General Sessions, and the other is our benediction. This comes to us from James 1. Be doers of the word, and not merely hearers. Those who look into the perfect law, the law of liberty, and persevere, being not hearers who forget, but doers who act, they will be blessed in their doing. This is from our own hymnal, by the way. And this from Adrian Rich. My heart is moved by all I cannot save. So much has been destroyed. I have to cast my lot with those who age after age, perversely, with no extraordinary power, reconstitute the world. May we, perversely, with no extraordinary power, reconstitute the world. So may it be. Blessed be. Now please, really be seated for the postlude. You're not going to regret it.